All right, so good morning, everybody. Some of you unfortunate souls were in the audience last night when I gave my first of 4 presentations. We'll see how many of you are still seated at the end of all 4. Those that obviously were here last night got the memo, the other memo that was released about sitting in the back, because I do tend to spit, so sorry, apologies for that. Last night what I really spoke to you about was survival. And I mentioned a couple of interesting stats. 439 companies from the original Fortune 500 in 1955 are gone. 50% of Fortune 500 companies from the year 2000 are gone. So if corporations and enterprises didn't believe that they were in the survival business, they sure as hell better pay attention. And for all of you looking to connect with those kinds of companies or figure out how to crack them, I think the next series of these 3 presentations are for you. So whether you're on the outside looking in or the inside trying to escape, looking out, ultimately what I've done is I've come up with 3 presentations: crawl, walk, and run. How to ultimately go about understanding innovation and investing in innovation. So it's very simple. Get in the game, get a win, and get to 10%. And today I'm going to talk to you about getting in the game. I've done an exercise with about 10,000 marketers over the last 5 years or so, where I literally get all of them to stand up. Don't worry, I'm not going to do it to you. And then I say to them, all right, I want you to sit down if you don't believe in any of these 4 things. You don't think tech is important, you don't think it's going to become important, you don't think working with startups is going to lead to game-changing results, and you don't believe you're going to need to change. At this point, of course, they're all still standing. Then I say, okay, now I want you to sit down if you feel completely educated, if you believe that not only do you know it all, you've done it all, if ultimately you feel you are keeping up with your consumer, with your customers, serving, satisfying them, keeping up with them and leading them, and ditto with your competition. At this point, of course, what's really happening is everyone is still standing. So 10,000 executives, not one has ever sat down. So what's wrong with this picture? Well, first I thought that marketers were completely schizophrenic. Right? Because they seem to say something but do another thing. And then I actually realized that they're all smart. To call them dumb is an insult to them. They're all smart, they're all educated as individuals, but ultimately what's really happening is the organizations that keep them, the containers that house them, are resistors of change. Absolutely are in the business of attempting to mitigate risk, not manage risk. And so that is the gap. That is the disconnect, ultimately. We're all smart, but we are not allowed or empowered to be able to do anything about that change. Well, it's time to bridge that disconnect. So last night I said to you, there's a what, a how, and a why, right? The what is, how do we maximize digital innovation? How do we maximize digital disruption? How, by partnering with startups? Why, to become more agile and more entrepreneurial, more startup-like as well. I said, but the problem is our websites suck. Email sucks. Search sucks. We are not even figuring out 101, and we're worried about the AI-powered AR, VR drones delivering. It's all a load of crap at the end of the day if it's not tied back to your business. So I'm from South Africa, and if you've ever been on a safari, you know about the big 5. Well, these are the big 5. It's not even about digital, social, and mobile anymore. You've got to kind of bring in big data and cloud into it. So these are the big 5. And for the most part, the companies that either you're trying to connect with or disrupt or disintermediate or take down, those bastards, at the end of the day, those companies are struggling with these 5. Well, guess what? It's about to get a whole lot more hairier for them. And in fact, for all of us as well. Because it's not just about the big 5 anymore, it's about the next waves of exponential disruptive change. And they are getting much more devastating. It is, in many instances, a tsunami of change. And they don't have a clue how to basically, place their bets for the most part. Because you can't do it all. And most of them actually aren't even trying to do it all. They're hamstrung. They're absolutely on the sidelines, and they're waiting for somebody else to make the first move. But they need to place their bets. They need to make educated bets. And they need to be able to prioritize with the right partners in terms of where to put their money. Well, this is a process that I put together about 6 years ago that actually shows through a bow tie process how to actually make sense, how to find order from chaos, how to create science that marries art to find worthwhile solutions. And it all comes down to really understanding technology and the role it plays and how it's going to ultimately impact their business. The first message is that this is not pie in the sky. This is not coming down the pike. It's already here. The perfect storm in many cases is already here. Business models, like the retail examples I showed you last night, 18,000 retail outlets will close in 2018. That effect, that force, is already here. So you take, for example, automation. When last did you ever pass through a toll booth and see a toll booth operator? That's an entire industry that literally was here yesterday and gone tomorrow, so to speak. So we can see, even according to Forrester, 25 million jobs will be lost through automation by 2027. The other thing, of course, is that the lunch of these companies is being stolen, hopefully by many people in this room today. And the reason why I show you this chart, looks like the formatting got a little bit butchered in the process, is the fact that when you look at Uber and Alibaba and Facebook and Airbnb, their product is nothing. Their product is ether. Their product is ephemeral. At the end of the day, they don't have the big physical hard goods that all of the companies, these enterprise legacy companies, have. They have very little overhead relatively. And ultimately, their consumers are, in fact, the product as well. And it's very hard for companies to understand. So Mike Tyson says it even better than me. And I'll try and do it without the lisp. He basically says, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. The enterprises, the people that you've been calling on for years and years and years, their planning processes are too bloated, too elongated, too protracted. They need to be able to start to get a lot more agile and a lot more adaptive really, really quickly in order to be able to course correct, change course, contingency plan, and do, of course, what many startups do, which is to pivot. So my message is very simple, and this will be really the bulk of the second presentation when you see me a little bit later. If you can't beat them, join them. Stop trying to beat them, because you will never beat them. If you're lucky, they'll choose to partner with you. Maybe even go through an acqui-hire. Maybe you might even be able to invest in them or acquire them. But certainly the first step is to be able to take that first step and learn from them. Education is the way. Education is the way. If you can understand and prioritize which of these technology trends or forces are going to impact your business model, your revenue streams, and you can prioritize, then the next step is to immerse yourself. Roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty, and truly understand. I was initially a little bit of a skeptic with respect to VR. And then I came to LA and I spent 2 days immersing myself with VR. And I walked out a completely changed man, in the sense. But clearly VR is not for every industry. That's why I even poo-pooed it a little bit at the start of this presentation. But if you're in travel and leisure, if you're in tourism, if you're the Mexican Board of Tourism, I would cut my entire paid media budget to zero and just immerse myself in VR. Don't tell me Mexico is something other than surf and sand. Show me. Immerse me. Help educate me about the culture, about the museums, about the ecosystem, about the ecological biosystem of which Mexico is one of the leaders in the world. The other thing is to learn from them. Corporate executives always believe that they can teach startups, but the reality is startups and entrepreneurs will teach corporate executives how to survive and how to evolve. Of course, I love the baseball analogy. You can bat .333 lifetime and you are a shoo-in to the Hall of Fame. Automatic first ballot, unless you were on steroids, right? That means every 3 times you stepped up to the plate, you failed twice, you succeeded once. If only we could get corporate executives to understand that 1 in 3, in fact, is a Hall of Fame statistic lifetime. The ultimate failure for me is to say, I'll see your failure and I'll raise you on the fact that when you ask me what the ROI is of piloting with a startup or embracing emerging technology, I would say, what's the ROI of failure? And just point them back to those stats that I showed you last night. So that's the first sound bite from me. My ROI will be to see whether the room fills up or empties out when I come back. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you later. Thank you.